but there was also a lot of other stuff in there with regard to the Warriors. And I wonder if his answer about Steph Curry doesn't maybe open some eyes a little bit with regard to just kind of how things work in the NBA, whether we agree with them or not. You know, we asked him, what does Joe Lacob owe Steph Curry? And without hesitation, he said whatever the hell he wants. And he says that because that's kind of how it works in these circles. That's kind of how it works. Here's the answer. What does Joe Lacob, what do the Warriors owe Steph Curry?
They owe Steph Curry whatever the hell Steph Curry wants. Now, I'm a Christian, and I don't compare any man to God or anything like that. But that man, Steph Curry, is the closest thing to a God-like figure that you got in that area. You make no mistake about it. Too invaluable, too untouchable, and, oh, by the way, still a star. That man need no more talent, go get him more talent. That man need a better roster, go get him a better roster. He needs Steve Kerr re-up for years to come. I know Steve Kerr signed this picture. Yeah, you do that too. You give Steph Curry whatever the hell he needs in order to keep him as a team, meaning as a team, relevant in the championship equation. He deserves no less. He's still a superstar in this league. He's still playing like a superstar. And the brother is the epitome of perfection when it comes to a professional athlete in terms of his greatness as a talent and his marketability and the sizzle that he brings to the table and just everything in between. It don't get no better than Steph Curry. You give him what the hell he needs.
Yeah. I mean, you could have answered it even more simply and more mathematically. Stephen A. eloquent there, and I love that he even evoked his own status as a religious man. And I'm not saying that Steph Curry's a god, but he's as close to a god as you could possibly want. And the answer is, when Joe Lacob and company bought the Warriors, they paid $450 million. And right now, the Warriors are worth $8.2 billion, second only to the Dallas Cowboys. So if you want to talk about what you owe Steph Curry, now you don't owe him the entire $7.6 billion that the franchise has gone up, because a lot of things have gone into that, including the new building, etc., on the 4 championships. But Steph has been probably the number one biggest value add in this organization since he purchased it. And I know Steph was here before he bought it and the rest of it, but what Steph has become, what this team has become, a lot of it is because of Steph Curry. So just from a financial standpoint, yeah, Stephen A.'s not wrong. You do owe Steph Curry just about everything he asks for.
Okay, so let's think about that for a second.
Second apron, bye-bye.
Well, I think it's important for people to hear. And this isn't about what you think or I think or even what Stephen A. thinks. It's more about the way an NBA franchise views a person like that, because there are very few of them. We use Steph's name next to LeBron's all the time. However, they're not the same, because LeBron has worn 4 different jerseys, if you count Cleveland as 2 different times.
Okay.
He's worn 4 different jerseys, 4 different eras, if you will. Kevin Durant has now worn, do we count the Sonics? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5? Did I get that right? 5
Yeah, Warriors, Brooklyn, Seattle, OKC, and Phoenix.
Okay, so this is more like asking, and he's not even there yet because Steph has achieved so much more and been there so much longer, but it's probably how Milwaukee feels about Giannis.
Right.
What do we owe Giannis? Everything. He wants Lillard, get Lillard. You want to fire the coach midseason, fire the coach midseason. You do anything for that man, because that man is everything. And so what does that mean for the Warriors offseason and all of the opinions that we've sat here and shared together? All of it. Don't trade Kuminga. Don't you dare. We're going to need those picks someday.
Right, the picks.
The first letter of future is F, and that's what you can do with the future. F it. I'm telling you.
And what does F rhyme with?
Duck?
Steph.
Oh.
F rhymes with Steph. So if Steph
it does.
says F, if Steph is a guy saying, you know what, F those picks, Joe, because I got 2 years, maybe 3 if you're lucky, If you show me that you want to win now, I'll sign an extension. I'll stay as long as you want.
He doesn't even need to say it.
If you show me, I know he doesn't need to say it, but I think that it's really the rat on the table brought to you by Atco Pest Control. If you're going to keep this team being competitive, Steph is going to stay and keep trying to win here.
Well, right. And so when we have conversations like this, I think it ends up being a coaching tool for all of us. Really. We're almost done with May, and you know exactly what happens as soon as June is over. It's open season, and here we go. And whatever it is that's going to happen is going to happen. And so we can start coaching ourselves now. Whatever the hell is supposed to go on in 2027 does not matter. It doesn't matter. 2026 doesn't matter. And I hate saying this, but there are even names. Now, I think they're going to be a part of this. And so they can be a part of this. They probably will be a part of this. But in the larger discussion, Jonathan Kuminga doesn't matter. Brandon Podziemski doesn't matter. Trace Jackson Davis and Moses Moody, they don't matter. And please don't clip that, Lucas, because if there's no context, that sounds awful and also inaccurate. Of course they matter because they can be successful teammates for Steph Curry, but that's literally what their role is. Successful teammates for Steph Curry. That's what matters. And whoever those names are, that's who they are. If it's an audition, make it an audition. The only thing that matters to this conversation, to this organization right now, who are successful teammates for Steph Curry?
Right.
That's the only question they're trying to answer.
And if it means you have to move off of future assets to bring in those successful parts to be here for the next year or the next 2 years, or hopefully you make it so that Steph Curry doesn't want to be anywhere else because you got Draymond here and you've got a core and you've got pieces that he thinks that he can win with, because that ultimately is all Steph Curry wants. I would imagine he wants to still be a Warrior, but more than that, he wants to be able to play in April, May, and June. And I know that he is a guy, and I'm sure Draymond's the same. You got the playoffs going on, and you're probably sick to your stomach that you're not there.
Yeah.
It's one of the rare times that you haven't been a part of this.
Right. And even though Steph, this is another thing I always think about with him, when you hear him talk and you look at his face and everything is always just like so nice.
Right.
And everything is just, it's all hunky and dory all at the same time, always. But I don't think it is. This probably burns him up like nobody's business. You know, these guys don't take kindly to this. They don't take easily to this. They know. Whether you want to, whatever word you want to use, the word we always usually use is legacy.
Right.
You know, we talked yesterday about how many times LeBron James had missed the playoffs in his career. And again, we often forget the bad. You know, so
first 2 years.
Well, Steph has missed, let's see. I can think of, there was the injured year, and then there were 2 play-in game losses. And then obviously there was stuff at the very, very beginning of his career when he was a pup. So what do we got? 5?
That sounds about right.
Is that about right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the ones that happen at the beginning of their career before they really get going, I sort of blow that off. Like, you're in building mode.
I get it.
Once you've built the empire, how often does it fall? And the answer is very, very rarely, and as rarely as possible in their power. You know, when Draymond, that's why that conversation was interesting in the crossover. Oh, Draymond Green says we could just lose for 5 more years and he's fine. I don't think that's what he was saying. I don't think he'd be fine. I know Steph would not be fine. They are not okay with missing the playoffs. And so if anybody's mind is in build it mode, just my suggestion, you don't have to take it, but get your mind out of build it mode, because that's not what's going on. It's not who they are. It's not what they're going to be. It's not what they're trying to do.
The answer for Steph is actually 6.
6.
He missed his first 3, 10, 11, and 12. Then he went 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. They missed 20 and 21. 20 was the injury year. You got Wiseman, and 21 was the play-in year. And then 24 was the play-in year.
Yeah.
So that's actually 6 years of the chef missing out on the playoffs.
Although I think most people would probably put 2, like actually sort of on the full resume.
Sure.
Because again, the first 3 are build it years, and then the fourth one, he wasn't there.
Right.
He didn't play.
Yeah. I mean, played a tiny bit, and then that was it.
How many games?
That year.
It was only like 6?
5.
Yeah.
In 5 games. Yep.
Yeah. So that doesn't really, I mean, I'm not putting that on a guy's legacy.
But, you know what I mean? If it was going to be a perfect resume, and I wonder if there is a player who played more than 15 years and never missed the playoffs, you'd have to probably go all the way back to the Boston Celtics to find that. It's incredibly rare to find somebody who plays that long and just doesn't miss the playoffs.
888-957-9570. Stephen A. also said this, and we can get into this conversation because you're not hearing a lot of people with a big NBA platform say this. Listen to what he said about Klay Thompson.
I'm not advocating for you to get rid of Klay Thompson because even on a bad year, remember it's a bad year to his standards. When you're talking about 42-43% shooting, 37-38% from three-point range, you know how many teams in the league would love to have a Klay Thompson on their squad? So I can't poo-poo that. The problem is you've got the Kumingas and the Moody's of the world and Pajinskis of the world and others who have shown they can come in and make a contribution. Klay Thompson might have to go because he's the one person with value for you to go out there and to get another component that you may need in order to supplement and elongate the illustrious career of a Steph Curry.
Okay. You know what was interesting about everything he said Klay Thompson related? He made it sound like a sign and trade.
Yeah.
He made it sound like an asset. And man, if we had had another half hour,
totally,
I would have loved to follow up with like, okay, tell me what the exit strategy is. Because if Klay's going somewhere else, I'm pretty sure he can drive himself.
Right. He can go wherever he wants to go.
So what is it that like Stephen A's building him as a valuable piece, which I agree he is. I think there's a lot of places where he fits and could help put teams over the top and all of that. It's almost like what Draymond said to Shaq with regard to the idea of ever not being a Warrior, where he said, look, if I felt like I could be the missing piece to push someone over the top, Klay may feel that way. Somebody needs a sharpshooter. Absolutely. He could be that for a team. So
maybe he wants to do that for the Warriors. And that might be a piece of the follow-up question would have been, Stephen A., do you think that that's something that Klay would want to do? Because Kevin Durant famously did that. He did the Warriors a solid and had them do a sign and trade, which begat D'Angelo Russell, which begat Wiggins and Kuminga. So maybe Klay sees that and thinks, if I do want to go somewhere else, can I make it so that the team that I'm leaving gets an asset back for me?
It's an interesting thought,
Yeah, and I hadn't thought about that until Stephen A. laid that out.
No doubt. And if Kevin did it, would Klay? Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't that help to mitigate some of the guilt you might feel if you're Klay and you do realize that you probably want to try something else or maybe the money's not right? Wouldn't that be a good way to at least kind of smooth it over with your departing team?
The thing that's so hard with this is that everybody's wants need to be the same, and I don't know that they are.
Right.
So, for instance, let's look at the two sides. Does Klay Thompson want to leave the Warriors? Probably not. Does he want to start and make a lot of money? Probably. Do those things match? I don't know. The Warriors might secretly not really, really want Klay to stay, but they certainly need to act like they do.
Right.
And if they bring him back, it's got to be in a certain mold, and he's got to be on board with that. And I just think all of those things need to match, and they may not match. And if they don't match, the feelings start getting hurt, and then now we're not doing each other any favors.
Right.
Like I could see it going that way. Or, I'm sorry, I could see it having already gone that way. I have no doubt that these conversations are already well underway.
For sure.
In terms of what the Warriors want and how they're going to present that to him.
And I think that if the Warriors and Klay both kind of agree that it's time for him to go elsewhere and there are multiple teams interested, that's where the Warriors might be able to make it more of a sign and trade to where if there's Orlando and another team that both want Klay at about the same price, well, then it could come down to what team is willing to offer something back in a sign and trade to have the preferred route for Klay to go there.
Right. Yeah. And that's what will unfold in the weeks to come. Now, what about this? One more from Stephen A. Smith, who joined us earlier. And if you missed it, Odyssey app, YouTube, it's available there. We'll have it for you in full later on in a couple hours on our show, Willard and Dibs. Glad you're here. This is where you may really agree or disagree. And this is the hard part for so many fans who feel like Draymond Green has worn out his welcome. We spent a lot of time this year, Dibs, talking about the Warriors and the need for a two. They do. They need a two. They need someone consistently. When we say that, though, we're usually talking about somebody else who can consistently put up the point numbers, the offensive numbers that are necessary so that so much pressure is not on Steph Curry. That's all well said, and I agree with all of it. But listen to this comment. Do you agree or disagree? I'll tell you right now before he even says it or before we play it for you, I agree. The second most important player on the Golden State Warriors is Draymond Green.
Can't get rid of Draymond Green because you ain't going to win without him. You say whatever you want about Draymond Green. You're not winning without him because what he brings to the table is everything Steph Curry doesn't want to bring to the table in terms of vocal leadership, in terms of accountability on the defensive side of the ball, and everything in between. Steph Curry needs Draymond Green more than he needs anybody outside of his family. And I mean that. I'm not talking about Steve. Steve Kerr's great, phenomenal coach. Okay? Joe Lacob, phenomenal owner, and his group. You couldn't ask for better because they're going to do what it takes to win. They're going to spend that money. But as a player, I'm telling you right now, you cannot lose Draymond Green if you have Steph Curry. Steph Curry needs Draymond Green. Make no mistake about it. So if you need Draymond Green, you got Steph, then you got to look at the other components. You don't want to let go of a young Kuminga. You don't want to let go of a young Kaczynski. You might not even want to let go of Moody. That's the only reason I bring up you might have to unload Klay. Because I can tell you right now, if I'm a team with picks and I got a player or two that I can forfeit to get Klay Thompson, I'm going to do that.
Again, he presents the Klay idea as a trade, not as a walk. And also everything. Now think about the way he also presented Draymond. Whenever we're talking about it, it's often, well, we know because we're Warrior fans, the defense, the smarts, the way he sets up Steph Curry in the offense. I like the way Stephen A. put it. It's also that Draymond does all the things that Steph Curry doesn't want to do when it comes to leading a team. He does all of the negative. He does all of the grunt work. He does all the I don't care if I score. I'll go rebound. I'll pass. I'll talk to the refs. I'll take all of the bullets in public for you. And that is something that I feel with all of the negativity surrounding Draymond, all the frustration that he hands out to fans, I think we forget that. I really do. I think we forget that he does all of the crap that needs to be done that no other Warrior can or will do.
The dirty work. And it's not to say that Steph isn't a leader, but when it comes time to get in a huddle and maybe undress somebody or bark at somebody, Draymond does that. When it comes time to set a hard screen to get Steph open, Draymond does that. Draymond does a lot of the things that make Steph's life a lot easier. And you could see it when Draymond's out and you watch Steph play. Forget the leadership and all the rest of the stuff that Draymond does bring, just the basketball part of it. When Draymond's not out there, Steph has a harder time getting open on the ball or off the ball because Draymond knows better than any other player how to get the chef open and how to make sure that he's able to do what he does.
Whole thing's super interesting. I mean, if I were, you know what I mean, somebody landed here from Mars and they're like, tell me about the conversation as far as what this all means going forward. You know, what happens next? We asked him, what is there a path? What is the path? And I think the quick response is Stephen A. Smith thinks the Warriors are still viable provided that they sign and trade Klay Thompson.
Right.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. And he's talking about getting a player back or a player or two and some picks and, you know, the idea of getting something for Klay. We've talked about, can you get something for Chris Paul and his $30 million? Maybe it becomes the Klay Thompson piece that they're able to use to get something back as opposed to Chris Paul.
Or both.
Right.
Or both.
True, but if I'm an acquiring team, I'd much rather trade for Klay Thompson in a sign and trade than I would take Chris Paul's contract and just write it off, depending on the team, obviously.
It's non-guaranteed.
Different teams, different needs.
You might be able to shed money and acquire Klay Thompson. And maybe that's attractive to people. That might be really, really attractive to people, especially if it's early in free agency and you clear money to go do something else so that you've added Klay Thompson and something else on the open market. This is going to be an offseason of extreme aggression in the NBA, I believe. You have so many rumors out there, you can't even keep track of all of them. Do you know how few stars there are in the NBA right now that are not involved in movement rumors?
Not many.
How many are you counting? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's not going anywhere.
Right.
Jokic is not going anywhere.
Anthony Edwards is not going anywhere.
Ant's not going anywhere.
Tatum and Brown probably not going anywhere.
Luka's not going anywhere.
Jimmy Butler, rumors. Giannis,
for sure.
Rumors.
Durant.
Rumors.
Steph's not going anywhere.
Paul George, he's going somewhere. LeBron, whispers.
How about two guys in Cleveland? Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland.
Both or one probably on the move.
100%.
They just fired their coach today.
Yep. I mean, all of this, and we're leaving a ton of names off. I mean, Brandon Ingram and on and on.
Zion.
Maybe. Probably not. But, I mean, you've heard his name thrown out. Markkanen, Trae Young. The whole thing really feels like a massive deck shuffle. And the Warriors being as aggressive as they are, I have a hard time believing that they're not going to at least try to be incredibly involved in it. And how do you go about doing that is the question we've all been asking. And it probably involves some really hard maneuvering. And this would this would qualify as that. Really, really hard maneuvering that you may feel like you have to do.
Yeah. I mean, you have to if you're the Warriors. There's one of two ways you can go, and we've talked about this a lot. You can stand pat and hope to bring back Klay at a workable number and then just basically run it back with what you have with a couple of new vet mins for Saric and whoever else you're going to lose. Or you can get bold. And we love the phrase maximize Steph Curry's window. And that's what Stephen A. Smith said to us without using that exact phrase. He said basically Steph Curry is as close to a deity as possible. And hell yes, you'll do everything you can to maximize the Steph Curry window.